It does say it's streaming.
Yeah, I just like to make sure that the audio is okay before I turn it over to you. So give me 1 second. And I do see a live. All right, we are good to go. So Doug, come on in and you can take it from here.
Hello. Hi, Guy.
Hi, Doug.
Good morning, everyone. I'm broadcasting from smoky Southern Oregon this morning, and glad to have you all with us. We have a nice room of people here in Grants Pass, and we welcome you here today. And just to give you the format for those of you who have or maybe new, Guy is going to speak about an hour. And then we'll take a very short break. Actually, we'll stay right here. I'll give you a few announcements, and Guy will get on with his Q&A. And so that'll be about a half hour. And so we look at about a 90-minute, little bit plus or minus class. And that's the format for today. So do stay with us for the whole thing. It's all, just to be here for the whole thing is well worth your time. There's really no other place to be. So I think I'll give you further instructions later as we get into the Q&A, but for now, Guy, would you like me to read the topic and key lesson?
Yes, please.
All righty. Today's topic is the fearless life begins with agreeing to die to our fears. And here's the key lesson. Life gives, life asks. And when at last we are willing to surrender whatever life may ask of us, excluding nothing, let alone our most familiar sense of self, then, for having died to the fear of death, we are set free. All right, Guy, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you. And can we leave the key lesson up there while I speak? Thank you. I want to go over something with everybody in that key lesson to set the stage for all that we're about to look at together. And if you'll permit me, so that we don't gloss over it, I'm going to read it line by line for a moment, and then we will begin our examination. I'm glad, as always, that you're here. I hope you'll stay for the entire time that we have scheduled. And mostly, as always, in fact, increasingly, it's my wish that you, to whatever extent it's possible, begin to understand that there is a part of each and every one of us that looks at life as if we're driving through some kind of fast food drive-up window. We hope to get our goods and get on our way and have our pleasure and be done with the appetite that moved us to drive through that window to begin with. I want you to understand that life is not a one and done. It's a total illusion that there is this moment coming as you've imagined it, where somehow or other, by some strange miracle, you're going to acquire, achieve, or otherwise be able to control moments in your life that presently control you as they do, and that for having gained that control, you'll find the contentment and the peace you're looking for. This life is not about control, no matter how much we've been conditioned to believe it is. It's about something else altogether, and that's what we're going to look at together today. So the title is The Fearless Life Begins with Agreeing to Die to Our Fears. Well, who doesn't want to die to their fears, whatever they may be? And yet, for most of us, again, you must decide whether it's true or not, the idea of dying to our fears cannot be separated from controlling the conditions that we blame for them. So that it really isn't that we die to our fears, we overcome the conditions, the conflict we feel that produces them, and then we think to ourselves, our fears are gone. And if there's anything that an aspirant must learn, is that their fears can never be gone as long as the aspirant is looking at life through the lens of an eye that sees life as the source of that fear. Life is not the source of our fears. In Scripture it says God did not create the spirit of fear, and indeed God did not. We're going to discover something about this today. Here's the key lesson. One line at a time. Go with me. Life gives. Well, that's obvious, isn't it? Maybe it's not. Maybe we live in a city or in some dark, strange place where it seems our life is always at risk. But were we to look up and past the dingy buildings, the human beings degraded as they are by their own doing and by a culture that cares nothing for them, we would see there's a sun. We would see there's this immense source of light, and not just our sun, but the spheres themselves of the heavens, the stars that are never not radiating down and giving life. Light is life. Light is life. And light has innumerable forms, notwithstanding the fact that it is light that gives to all of the forms creation has endowed all that it needs in order to continue itself. And then life gives and life asks. Not life takes, but life asks. And what does it ask? It asks of every creature that it gives its light to, will you give back to me what it is that I need of you, so that in returning to me what I give to you, you may in turn give to that which is below and beneath you, so that it may receive, that it might be given what it requires to live. Life gives and life asks, and when at last we, you and I, are willing to surrender whatever life may ask of us, excluding nothing, let alone our most familiar sense of self, then, for having died to the fear of death, we are free. What does it mean when at last we're willing to surrender whatever life may ask of us, excluding nothing, let alone our familiar sense of self? Then in that moment, we have died to the fear of death and we are free. We can take the key lesson down now. We're going to go step by step through some very important ideas. I pray that you will keep pace as best you know how, so that we can together look and see whether or not it is possible for us to be a participant in a world that, apart from humanity's touch, far be it from golden, but rather from its deadening touch, its insensitive touch, we can see how life is reborn, renews itself, how there's never not a movement from the highest to the lowest, and that how everything is kept in place, and not just in place, but perfected further by that touch. So here I am, I'm a man, you're a woman, whatever it may be that we are. And we reach a certain age in our life. For me, it was rather young. And for whatever reason, we're always one way or another, we're looking for something to give us life. We're told by mom, dad, this will give you life. Get this, you've got life. But then, by the grace of God, though it doesn't feel like it, at some point a person realizes, I can't talk to people about this, but I'm looking for another world. I'm looking for another world. Why? Because I'm looking for another life. I'm looking for a life that I can't find in this world. And I know that I can't find in this world because I have done pretty much everything this world says to do in levels and scale in order to produce this sense of self that's at peace with itself. And it doesn't matter, no matter what it is that I take from this world. Somehow or other, the conditions that I used to create what I took come along, the conditions change, and it takes it back. And then I'm left back at square one, just like the prodigal son, not having enough to eat, starving in spite of all my will and effort, leaving me as it did the prodigal son this thought, I have to return to home. Only the prodigal son knew from whence he left. You and I don't know what the home is that we left. And to compound how confounding this is, this is the only world that there is for me. All I can see is this world. All I know is this world. And yet I know that within this world that I see with my eyes and touch with my senses, there lives another kind of life, another kind of world. And I know it so because I have the need for it. And it's a need that I didn't create for myself. I didn't create the need to drink. But the need to drink proves that there's water. I didn't create the need to breathe. But the need to breathe proves the existence of air. And I need another kind of light. I need another kind of patience that isn't predicated on controlling circumstances so I can get from you what I want. I need something I can't give myself and that I can't find in the world as I wander through it. Where am I to look? And it's evident, at least it should be, I can't look in the creations that this world makes. Because I've been part of creating things in this world. All of us have. So if I can't find this contentment, this consolation in the creations of this world, where am I to find it? And then as time eventually proves, a person is moved to realize, well, I guess I'm going to have to look for what I need in the Creator itself. In my relationship with creation, not with the things created, but my relationship with the moment of creation itself. Because I can see, although maybe not so well, but to some extent, all is well with creation. Creation never stops completing itself. Creation never stops bringing something new out of itself. Even as what is old passes, what passes becomes part of what is new in another form. It's evident. And it's also evident that every creation, notwithstanding, every creation serves a life that's greater than itself. I don't serve a life greater than myself. I serve myself. What about you? Every creation, you can't find the sunlight serves the tree. The tree serves the leaves serve the soil serves the tree in this beautiful unending cycle. It's a system sustained, created by a cascading will, moving through active and passive stages. A perfect system, created and sustained by a cascading will, the will of light touching the will of the tree and the leaves, the will of the leaves resisting but taking in what it needs to feed the rest of the creatures. And where each and every last one of these things requires only one thing from every last one of these moments. Every last relationship revolves around and depends upon one thing that keeps the whole system of active and passive will, of these successive stages, in place. And that's what's breathtaking, because it's the last thing that occurs to us. What keeps all of life sustained, natural life, is that each and every last one of these creatures surrender themselves to the will of something of a greater good. Every creature surrenders themselves to that will that serves a greater good, and the whole of creation that's sustained by that relationship. I'm asking you to see it. Nothing lives without surrender. Nothing is born without surrender. Nothing dies without surrendering. And nothing is given life again without surrendering. So that we as human beings, we have this beautiful word, surrender. But for us, surrender has nothing to do with understanding the necessity of allowing a will greater than our own to prove to us in the moment of its inception, the moment that it touches us, the will of heaven touching the will of earth. That in that moment we are being brought into and asked to participate in a plan so grand the mind can't even begin to imagine it. Where no creature, large or small, no matter what that creature is in the scheme of things, is no more important than any other creature. That's another mind-blowing idea. No creature is more important than any other because every creature plays the same part, experiences the same role of surrendering itself to the will of what is greater than itself so that what is beneath itself may be sustained in exactly the same fashion. Every creature is, in fact, a creation of a world greater than itself. Surely you can see this. The creation of a cosmos, if you will, greater than itself. And every cosmos, from the smallest to the largest, is what? I am the vine and you are the branches. So that from the smallest creature is the branch of the vine whose will gives it what it needs in order to change and transform. And you can see this all the way up into the kingdom of heaven itself. All agreeing to a will that belongs to a larger life. Because in the agreement to the will of a larger life, that creature then has a life of its own. But it's not really the creature's own life, is it? It's not really the creature's own life, is it? It's not really my life, is it? It's not really your life, is it? If, in fact, in order for there to be life, there must be something greater, the will of something greater, acting on the will of something lesser, so that something can be passed along, that this current of celestial light can bring into existence that which it is intending to do. And if you can see this with me, and I'm hoping you can see this with me, it makes this incredibly important point. Much to the topic of our talk, the fearless life begins with agreeing to die to our fears. If you understand what I've said, life never takes from life. Life never takes from life. Oh, how many different ways and times and places has it felt to us as life is taking from me something. You treated me this way, you're taking from me my esteem. You're taking from me the right I have to be treated in a certain way. I had this all set. You were going to be like that. This was going to be there. Everything was pretty much settled. I was feeling secure. And then all of a sudden something changed. How did it change? I don't know. Why did it change? I can't even begin to guess. And I can fight with it, but it doesn't change the fact that something changed. And then I think, why life? Why God? Why have you done this to me? Why can't everybody be like me, understand how important I am? And this flies directly in the face of understanding that no creature is more important than any other creature. Christ, Buddha, every true teacher that ever lived said the same thing. So life never takes from life. Life never takes from any level of nature what it hasn't already replaced in the nature of that life. Hear me. Life never takes from life, from any creature, what it hasn't already replaced in the nature of that life. And so it is true with us. So it is true within our divine nature, even in our animal nature. We've just yet to see it as true. This is why for so many years this idea as above, so below, as above, so evident in nature. Life never takes from us. Does life ever take from a tree what it isn't replacing in that tree in the exact same moment? Well, you say, yeah, life's taking the life out of the tree. It's going to die. No. What if you understand that the tree doesn't exist apart from the light doesn't exist apart from the tree it gives life to, and the ground and the soil and the leaves and the fruits don't exist apart from the whole of that? Life never takes from us what it isn't replacing in the same moment. And how is it replaced in the same moment? Let's look at an example. Can you think back on times when, I know I can, it seemed that the worst thing in the world that could have ever happened, happened? Some terrible injury, some unbelievable embarrassment, sense of loss, socially, physically, financially. Person learns that they're an addict and finally understands it. Person contracts a deadly disease and their mortality is on the line. Any one of these moments in which a person experiences that, if that man or woman is graced, and all are, save for those who refuse to receive that grace, at some point the person realizes, that thing that I thought was the worst moment of my life was the most important moment of my life. I can see it. It seemed like life was trying to take from me something, but once I stopped struggling and surrendered to the revelation that was inherent in that moment, I realized life wasn't taking something from me, it was replacing something in me. It wasn't taking something from me, it was replacing something in me that I could have never replaced, not in a million years, because for the most part I didn't even know that it needed to be replaced. And when through that exchange, which is beyond imagination, because it starts with a life that is beyond thought, and something is stirred and moved in the human soul, the mind is suddenly given a revelation of the content of itself. And at first it resists summarily, because that's what everything on earth does. But eventually it yields, and when it does, then that person realizes, wow, thank God I was able to see that selfishness. Thank God I was able to see how impatient, how judgmental, how addicted. Thank God I was shown what a liar I am. I didn't even know that I lied. And in that moment, that man or woman seeing the truth, because the will of heaven has acted on this nature, and in the light produced through this active and passive relationship, suddenly person go, wow, God, this is shocking, this is terrible, but thank God, because now I know for myself what I must give up. I know I cannot stay in place with this person that I have taken myself to be. And so what happens? What is problematical is replaced. And it's not just replaced. You and I, experiencing the exchange, are reborn. I have an understanding that is impossible to understand the moment before. And this divine will, this constant, beautiful activity from the heavens never stops asking us to do what? It never stops asking us to see what it is revealing so that we of ourselves will agree, because we see the necessity of it to exchange what we call our life. I'm fighting and clinging. I want things to stay as they are. I don't want things to change. I'm going to do this so I can keep that the way it was. I'm bound. But I'm not bound by the world. I'm bound by my thoughts that are the world, that torment me because they keep saying, you mustn't let this change because it means you're going to die. What do you think is this fear of death? It is the fear of loss. And what is the fear of loss other than something that I am identified with grossly, immensely? That my entire identity is a derivative of your opinion of me, which is by the way why I create codependent relationships. My entire identity is wrapped up into my house. My entire identity is wrapped into the way I look or how I want to be seen, so that anything that comes along and threatens all of the system in place to keep that sense of self there, every last thing is seen as a threat. And why is it a threat? Because it's threatening me. Have you never actually not felt like when something went wrong and that anxiety was choking your throat that you were going to die because of how anxious or angry or afraid you were? Of course, we've all felt that. But what's choking you is not the moment. What's choking you is a nature that believes, unless it has a choke hold on conditions remaining the same, that somehow you're lost. So the last thing that ever occurs to this nature is the whole reason that's taking place is by grace. Something is said, listen, Guy, it's time you see the way in which you create dependency in others. It's time you understand that what you have called your will has not brought about what you would call a happy life. It's brought forth a life that's always promising to be happy when you get rid of what's threatening it. So we must understand the necessity, first, of realizing we are always being acted on by a greater will, by the will of God. We are never not being acted on by what poorly could be described as the infinite forces of life itself. Made in the image of God means that we are made in the form of that which not only holds all of these energies, but these energies never not acting on themselves in order to reveal the divine. So how do I get to this realization? It begins with a certain kind of a shock. I've been describing it. So my pain is because of how willful I am. Not my happiness. My pain is because of how willful I am. But I don't know that I'm willful until somebody challenges the nature that is identified with something that says it requires to be me. This is such an important point. Hey, Guy, do you want to know? Let's go over. I don't think, no. So my life shrinks and shrinks and shrinks into this state of resistance, which, by the way, at its far extreme is the place of weeping and wailing and gnashing of teeth that Christ talked about. Yes, there is a state like that. Because I'm just this no. Why? Because my will is for what I want, and if what you're asking or they're doing or someone is saying challenges that will that knows and defines me, then I am accordingly confined to that will and always serving it. And it isn't until we begin to realize that we indeed live in a world of our own making. We want to blame others for the world that we're in. If everyone's blaming everyone for the world that we're in, guess what? So we have a certain shock. over and over again, and then we justify it. We talk to ourselves. We blame. When the shock is the fact that something came along and it said, hey, Guy, here's this moment where your husband, your wife, your children, your family, here's this moment, and it seems like it's in total contradiction to your contentment. And suddenly this resistance that I feel to their actions, I believe is my will. And because I believe that resistance, which is born out of thwarted desire, because I believe that's will, I just identify with it, and then I punish anyone and everything in my way. Because they're running against what I want. They're not who they're supposed to be, and I know. St. Paul, he spoke of this conflict, of this will, in more ways than one. Christ himself said, you can't serve two masters. You'll love one and despise the other. Paul says, I want to do the good, but I don't do the good. I do the evil I don't want to do. Most of us don't even know that we do the evil we don't want to do because we believe it's good to be evil. We believe it's good to shun people. We believe it's good to make sure people know that we're not happy with them. We believe that. Because those actions are predicated on a momentary sense of resistance to something that has brought up this not wanting in us, and boom, there we are, and we follow it lock, stock, and barrel. But St. Paul is saying, listen, I'm torn. I understand when I do the evil I don't want to, that I ought not be doing that, and yet I still do it because I cannot do what I know is right. So here's a stage of purgatory, a place where a person actually starts to recognize, you know what? I'm probably the most impatient person that ever lived. I'm probably the most anxious person that ever lived. And by the way, that's just bragging. Because in those moments, I really don't want to hurt you. God, imagine somebody who believes it's right to hurt another human being. But I hurt other human beings because it's the only way I know to respond when I think they've hurt me. And Paul's saying, look, that's the evil I don't want to do, not the good I would. So what he was saying is that in me, not in this world around me, but literally inside of this consciousness, in this being, there's a divided nature. There's an unconscious mind that on one hand wants to do what it says it shouldn't do and then judges itself for doing it. That in that divided nature lives something that understands that divided nature. The light dwells in the darkness, and the darkness comprehends it not. Love lives within this miserable mass of humanity, in this twisted soul, and it's forever trying as best it can just to put a little light on the actions of that nature, so that by the action of that light, that nature might have a moment where it actually sees for itself. Why do I keep doing the same thing? And the answer is revealed by that light, because I always have a good reason for it. My will dictates my actions. So for us, as opposed to St. Paul, who was struggling with this, for us, we to surrender. So many of the times seems like the way in which we get through this moment. Surrender is not a way to get through the moment. Surrender is the way in which the moment brings to us the possibility of transcending a nature that's in conflict with the grace of that moment that has come to show us the truth about ourselves. We want to control the negative effect of an unwanted experience. So we say to ourselves, all right, I surrender. But you need to see this. When we say, I surrender like that, doesn't it imply contradiction? Why would I have to feel like I've got to surrender unless there was some conflict in me that I want to get past? I don't want the conflict, so I'm going to identify with this idea of being surrendering, and then I can go on with my life. But the fact is that that will remains in place, and it will surface again, as we know all too well. So we rarely see this conflict that Paul was talking about, St. Paul. That's conflict. I see the good, I do the evil. How, in the name of heaven, do I begin to do the good instead of the evil I would not? What would be the good? Because as hard as it is to understand, to do the good is not to resist the evil. To do the good is not to pretend the evil isn't there. To do the good isn't this idea of becoming good, so good later that the evil is finally in its right place. That is not what it means to do the good. To do the good is to be present enough in the moment where the good is revealing to us that which wants and acts from its own will. And in the clarity of that light, in the strength of that light, to do the one thing that is unconscionable to this unconscious nature, and that is what? I must lose my life in order to find it. Bring up the second key lesson, if you would, please, Kate. To will is human, but to surrender it is divine. To will is human, oh so human, but to surrender it is divine. Surrender must be to something higher, not to what this mind says is the greater good. Because that's the lesser of two evils, isn't it? Surrender must belong and must be the extension of something that is a greater relationship that in and of itself belongs to another order, another level of being that is already whole. Surrendering isn't to bring about holiness. Surrendering is the act of holiness. It is the participation in it. So that real life, eternal being, if you want, is created and guided by this greater will, one that we can only participate in through the conscious surrender of our will to the greater one that reveals the need to do so regardless the cost. I pray to God that one day you struggle with this cost. Because at last, in the struggle with the cost of surrendering my will to the greater good, I'm no longer deeming myself the most important human being that ever lived, let alone trying to figure out how to make the whole world recognize that, so it bends to my will. We call will. What we call will is desire. Desire belongs to the will of the animal. The true will of a human being is something that is awakened and stirred by the will of the divine for the purpose of aligning that will, not making that will superior to the conditions that nature resists. So that our task is a participation. Our task is a participation, which means surrender isn't something that we really practice. Surrender isn't a practice any more than we're the one who, have you ever seen them throwing that wheat and the chaff into the wind? They've got these baskets. You ever seen that? Why do they throw that wheat and chaff into the wind? Because the wind separates the chaff from the wheat. We must let the will of heaven separate us from the chaff of this unconscious nature, from its content and its creations and its insistence on continuity, no matter the cost, to everyone and everything that's true and good in our life. The wind decides what's discarded when it comes to the wheat and the chaff. So it is that the will of heaven chooses what is to be discarded in the moment when that will meets the will of earth. Bring up the third key lesson, if you will, please. Read along with me. This is a bit of a summary. Spiritual surrender is the result of understanding that what God has given, He asks for it back. Not to take from us our life, but to give it more abundantly. In this way, He polishes, perfects, and renews our life so that it might better reflect and reveal it as always having been His own. Spiritual surrender is the result of understanding that what God has given, He asks for it back. But He asks for it back not to take something from us, but to give to us something that can be given in no other way, and give it abundantly, which is what? He asks for it back by revealing what it is that was made out of what He first gave us. He asks for it back by revealing to us in that moment what we made out of what He has given us. And He gives us that moment to see what we have made out of what He has given us, so that we can see the good or the evil therein of what has been created in our name. And it is in that light of recognizing that God hasn't come to take from me my happiness. He's come to purify the nature, the understanding of its authentic essence. And in that way, the divine polishes, perfects, and renews our life. In that way, we are reborn, and there is no other rebirth. And the rebirth is the revelation and the realization that in that moment, what is taking place is that we are, as Christ said, not my will, but thy will be done. I am participating in another order of being, because by the grace of that higher order, I can now see and know for myself what is the good, what is the true action here. And that light that sees this truth and then empowers you to surrender that which stands in the way of that revelation is, in fact, the revelation that your life and God's life has always been one and the same. I am in the Father, and the Father is in me, and you are in me, and I am in the Father. What do you think all of that means? Do you think those are words meant to comfort you? They're words that are intended not just to encourage you to pursue and make whatever steps are needed to realize that the world you're living in is not your world. It's a world made by something that has no interest in you ever understanding what it means to be a part of God's life. In God's life, there's no fear. In God's life, there's no fear. And do you know why? Because there's no death in God's life. The idea of death and the fear of it is a human creation, although certainly these bodies must pass. God has given it. He asks for it back. But he doesn't ask for it back so that you don't have a body. He asks for it back so that you can begin to see how fearful you are of not having some ludicrous vessel, in pain as it is, broken down by a mind that has done nothing but been bitter about its life, so that you can start to see, you know what? Maybe this isn't the whole thing. Maybe there isn't death at all the way I've imagined it, because that's what death is. It's a nightmare produced by negative imagination. And a negative imagination, I might add, that belongs to a nature that wants to ensure it remains in charge of your life so that its will takes your life where it will. Where surrender, real surrender, is when what is being acted on us accepts and answers the will that is acting on it. That's what surrender is. It's not something happens and then I surrender. That's not surrender, that's a reaction. That's an attempt to mitigate the reaction. Real surrender is when what is being acted on, this nature, this soul, this essence, accepts and answers the will that is acting on it in that moment. How? By allowing it to reveal and to transform what it has come to do. And what it has come to do is only realized in that voluntary exchange in which the whole of life, my life, is renewed and reborn. And I'm a witness to it. Then it isn't I who lives in Christ, but Christ who lives in I. Then it is the constant sacrifice, but not for the sake of something that I say is good, but because I've seen the good and the necessity of surrendering. And mustn't go past this point without adding the fact that surrendering is not this blissful thing. You see all these stupid people with looks on their faces like they're surrendering. Surrendering is sacrifice. Sacrifice has suffering in it. Because the nature to be sacrificed does not say, oh, great, let's give me up so that something else can take my place altogether. There's a cost to surrender. And yet in the end, the payment for it is already in your pocket. And so is the reward. Let's bring up the last key lesson, please, Kate. Read along with me, please. There is no ambition in God's love. It wants for nothing because it lacks nothing. It doesn't seek, so it is never frustrated with what comes to it. It has no motive, and so it is always innocent. This is a peace that passes all understanding, because it is the source of a wisdom with neither beginning nor ending. This is a peace that passes all understanding. The last thing that I would say in the material I'm presenting today is that there has never been an authentic man or woman seeking what is authentic, meaning realizing that they have to depart this world, even though they still live in it. I have a wife, a daughter, a son-in-law, a house, a family, a foundation. I've even inherited a kind of a crazy Shih Tzu by the name of Maisie. I have to be responsible. But you see, but when responsibility is an idea, the burden of some task you have to complete in order to ensure that you continue as you've imagined yourself to be, then responsibility becomes your ruination. Because what are you serving? You're serving the same conditioned thoughts and feelings that drove your parents and their parents and their parents before them to drink and drug, to imagine and then live out new ambitions by which at some point they can finally be free when they become as imagined, all the time serving the will of something that has no interest in what is good at all, only in ensuring that it keeps going and keeps you going and serving it until the body finally drops. And then as it's doing it or leading up to it, that same nature, that same will, chastising you and judging you and telling you, look what a lost, wasted human being you are. Imagine that. You don't have to imagine, it's there already. Every time any form of loss, the appearance of it crosses the mind. The mind is immediately filled with reproaching, with regretting itself and wondering why this and why that. And then the more it thinks about these things, the more it enters into confusion. And the more confused it is, the more willing it is to listen to some nature that comes along and says, I understand, here's what you have to do. Go straighten him out, go fix this, go change that. And then because you don't know any other will, you follow blindly and both fall in the pit. The last word is this. There is an unimaginable life. It's unimaginable because it can't be known with the mind. All the mind knows is what it thinks, imagines, pursues, claims, and identifies with. So that all the mind knows is separation. And the suffering inherent in the separation of a divided mind is mitigated by its constant pursuit of something that will make that suffering go away in a time to come. And that time never comes, and even when it does, the conditions change. But there is a life where it is done. It is done. There's no more thought. No thought is needed. No thought is needed because there's no longer ambition. And there's no longer ambition because the moment in which the person feels themselves apart from the world they're looking at is no longer apart from the world they're looking at. That world is within them and they are within it, and all is well in that world because all is well with God. Then there is a peace that passes understanding. Because then at that point, in that moment, as brief as it might be, and it is brief for the longest time, the person understands that God is perfect, that God is good, and that the life they have in that moment is the only life there is. The life they are being given in that moment is the only life there is. But to see that that is the only life there is also, if we're willing to do so, the understanding that what is being given, even as it is being given, something is being asked of us over and about what was given. So I'm given in this moment something beautiful. What does life ask of me? Life asks that I see that that beauty is not because of something I own or something I'm doing, but in this instance because beauty is in the eye of the beholder, which means there is no separation between the eye that sees the beauty and the beauty that is seen. It is all part of God's life. I'm given to see in myself this cruelty, this endless attempt to try and control everything. I see it. I'm given that which I see. I'm given that which I see that most of me doesn't want to see. Why is it given to me? Because in the same moment that it's given to me, it is asked of me, will I see what I have been given? Because if I will see, if I will accept what I'm being asked in that moment, there will be no question about what follows. Because it won't be an action taken by a nature trying to change what it sees. It'll be an action taken by the light that reveals what it does, that changes everything that comes into it. Then it's done. There's nothing more to do, nowhere to go, nothing left except to just simply enjoy being what you are, which is a creation of the divine, carrying out what the divine has asked you to do, and giving you to accomplish it with. That's it. We can go on and take a quick little stretch if we need to. Doug, you can come back on and we can go through the announcements as needed, assuming that I haven't been talking to myself for the last hour. Oh, there he is.
I've been here.
Okay.
Thank you, Guy. Thank you for the clarity that you brought for me. So that's all I can speak from in this whole issue of this will being so human, and then there's another way to surrender it. So
Yes.
anyway, let's go on, everybody. We are going to start our questions and answers. If you're on GoToWebinar, you can, and if you're new especially, I think there are several names I don't recognize. You can click on your little hand icon, and that brings it up in the queue. And we start a queue, and you can talk to Guy. Click on the hand icon, and if you have any problem with that, we'll try to help you with that. And then you can speak with Guy. You turn on your microphone. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, you can write in a question in the chat boxes. And also on GoToWebinar, if you'd rather write in a question, you can do that as well. So we'll start that momentarily. I just want to say that if these ideas help you and you'd like to make a donation to Life of Learning Foundation, you can do so at guyfinley.org/donate. And there's a whole page there. And you can do it at any time. You don't have to do it right now. But get that link, guyfinley.org/donate. You can do that anytime. And just briefly, we do have study groups where students like myself and others, we study these together. If you're in the Wisdom School, that's Monday night. And if all of you are welcome to come on Friday nights, that'll be this coming Friday, will be the night where we speak about this. It's a way for each of us to do our own work, to see these ideas being real and active in ourselves. So, and the rest of it, you'll get all of we have a Wednesday night classic talk, and of course we have an Insight Timer every week that Guy is there. So I think we're good. Guy, are we ready to go? Do you have anything else to say, or you want to start? Okay, let's go ahead and get started with Jill. She's in the queue. So here's Jill.
Good morning, Guy.
Hi, Jill.
So I had something happen. I went to the chiropractor, and I had to go on the table, obviously, for him to adjust me. And so I saw this resistance, this complainer. I don't like this. This hurts. Blah 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 blah. And before I knew it, Guy, I said, this headrest sucks, just out. And, it just like pushes and pushes, and the pressure and just pops out like that. And the funny thing was, like, that night, I woke up at like 3:30 in the morning, and it popped in my head what happened. And I started laughing hysterically because this nature, it was funny to me. But it was just an odd thing to happen. that, I thought, wow, this nature is just dumb. But I couldn't stop laughing. I've never had anything like that happen.
You've never had anything. You've never had anything. Somebody has to mute Jill, I guess. We'll bring you back on, Jill, in a moment. So you've never had anything like that happen before? Really? Or has it happened before in other ways? I was thinking, Jill, actually just yesterday, spent some time on it. Do you know why we never see the carnage of our own actions? Because in the time when we are acting out this negativity, this violence, this anger, this frustration, this fear, because in the time that we're acting it out, that little tiny sphere of time and the torment in it is it's like a bubble unto itself. It's actually a form of I believe that's actually the collapse of a certain field, so that all the possibilities inherent in time collapse into that tiny little moment. And then as soon as that moment is over, because some other condition stirs some other thought and creates the possibility of a new field, a new set of thoughts, in that moment, that time is gone. And when that time is gone, that self is gone. And when that self is gone, the carnage that it creates, it cannot see. And if it sees any remnants whatsoever, that nature always has an explanation for itself. A big part of our work, Jill, and for everyone, is being able to, I used to call it holding the aperture open, being able to be present enough, not just in the moment where I'm walking into something I fear or I don't want to go through, but in every moment, aware of myself walking in, so that what's walking in isn't the me that wants something or doesn't want something from the moment. So that what's walking in isn't some me that wants or doesn't want something from the moment. You're dead the moment that nature walks into any situation, because it will always meet what it doesn't want, or will always want something else other than it's getting. No, I must walk in the full body of myself, the full awareness of myself. Awareness is timeless. The awareness of my nature transcends the nature that acts in time against itself. Then I'm able to capture, if you will, these moments where I can see beyond the shadow of a doubt, God, I'm not doing the good that I would. I even said to myself I was going to try to be different, and I'm not being different. Instead, I'm doing the evil I would not. I've said this cruel thing. I'm running out. I'm rushing around. I'm making another plan. And then I never see it, because I'm not there. And you know why we don't want to be there, Jill? Because to be there is to see what I don't want to see is true about myself. That's what it means to do the good I would, is to see all the time something in me conditioned. Not Jill, not Guy. This nature that must pass. This nature that must be surrendered. And that's a euphemistic word. I didn't put it in the talk, but I will now. You look up the Aramaic of what Christ said, he must lose his life to find it. You know the word lose in the old language was? He must obliterate it. He must destroy it. Strong language. Because it seems like to destroy is to resist. That's not what Christ was saying. To lose it, to surrender it means, in this instance, it will be destroyed, because I will no longer give it my life, and when it no longer has life, it will die. It's destroyed. And then to bear what has to happen in that kind of moment-to-moment crucifixion, which is exactly what it is. Bring Jill back if she wants to say anything. Otherwise, we'll go on, please.
Okay, we'll see how much feedback there is here.
Okay. Thank you, Guy. That's really helpful.
You follow me, Jill?
Follow me, Joe?
I do. Yes, thank you.
And here's the other thing.
Here's the other thing.
Mute her now, and then we'll go on. Here's the other thing. Listen to me, Jill. I can feel you. I know what your inner life is like right now. You get rid of Jill. Get rid of Jill. Jill believes in defeat. Because if she can be defeated, then she can make a plan or hate herself. You can't defeat the light. You can't defeat love. But we live from something when something in us is challenged, and then we see, oh my God, it's hopeless. I can't tell you how many times I talk to students and you can just hear hopelessness dripping in their voice. That dark whining sound of a person who's accepted the will of something that's saying, see how it is? No, don't see how it says it is, Jill. See it with what you remember and know is true in that moment, and at least let that struggle be there so that in that struggle you can see with greater clarity what is talking to you and trying to bring you down into its world. Let's go on, Doug.
All right, we have a couple more in the queue, but I did want to mention, if you're in the room here in Grants Pass and you'd like to speak, come on back to where I am, and we'll put you on this computer so if you want to ask Guy a question. So just mentioning that. And we have Dwight coming on next, Guy.
Good.
Dwight, you put yourself... Dwight, you want to unmute yourself. You hit your hand instead of your microphone. You know how to do this.
You're an old hand at this, Dwight.
There it is.
Okay. Many times in the past talks, you've talked about complete the moment. And
Yes.
it was so vague. And I thought, well, maybe he could give me an example of how to complete the moment. But I think you just did in this talk. I think you answered what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Was so clear with completing the moment.
Isn't that
So-
isn't that wonderful, Dwight? What a
Yes.
what a miracle that something in me, I heard something and it's carried it along, because I understand there's like I've got some sheet music and somehow or other I spilt some milk or chocolate on it and like 12 notes are missing, and I know the melody's there. I can see it here and I can see it there, but I don't know the notes in between. And then by the grace of God, because the music lives, suddenly you go, that's it. That's how that phrase is completed. Now you can let that sing in you, excuse the poetic language, because you'll start understanding a little bit more about it, Dwight. Very happy for you. 100% you understand what this talk was.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Dwight.
All right, Guy, we have a question. I think, Kate, you've seen this. Came last week, and it's from someone named Chris. I don't know, man or woman. And there's two questions, and I'll start with the first one, probably related in some way. She asks, Guy, I felt something strange worldwide the day Charlie Kirk was killed. A deep grief that moved like an energy and an earthquake in Utah that same afternoon when the news broke. I wept and felt the world shift. Coincidence, or is something spiritual being exposed or accelerated right now? What should I be watching for?
Your own hypocrisy. How the world loves to mourn its losses, and the next morning does nothing. Human beings are dedicated to distraction, preferably the kind of the most personal. how important I feel. Voyeurs, living from someone else's life. Why do I need a hero? Heroes come and heroes go. They've been doing it for millennia. If Charlie Kirk was a true man and a true hero, the way the world proposes him to have been that, he hasn't the least regret for what has taken place to him. Nor should you and I sit and think to ourselves that this was a world-shattering. Do you know why the world makes of human beings what it does? So that the world can stand in that man's light, and believing that by standing in that man's light, it means the world has light, and it was the world that killed Charlie Kirk, not some lone nut bag. What do you think a nut bag is, a nut job is? It is the momentary manifestation of a human being so consumed by conditioned imagination that the only action it can take to free itself from that pain is to act out against what it blames for it. And that man that blamed Charlie Kirk for his pain knew nothing about the man whose life he took. I could spend hours talking about this, but I will not. If I want to be a human being, a man or woman who, however you might say it, wants to be the source of what is true and good, and even that's inaccurate, wants to be the instrument of what is true and good, then let me be true and good while I'm watching the television produce these endless accolades. Let me ignore the accolades. God himself had said, have no images, no graven images. Do you know why Charlie Kirk's life was taken? Was because for however it happened, the image of himself became greater than the man. That's what the world does. And the minute the image became greater, the image, instead of that of being something good by its nature, instead becomes that which is feared, loved on one side, despised on the other by an unconscious nature. And the only thing that nature knows to do is to destroy what it fears. Let us not take part in destroying the world that we fear or in adulating those who tell us how to be fearless, but rather let us use our lives in the proper what they're meant to be used for, which is to study this world inside of ourselves, to see where it is. As distasteful as it seems that I myself crucify Christ, because I say one thing and do another, because I profess to be this kind of person, and then when push comes to shove, I'm that kind of person. And I never see this and that at the same time, which is what Christ asks us to do. So that by that light and by that goodness, the whole thing collapses. And when the whole thing collapses, the world that was supporting that thing, it collapses in part. And the world is a better place, not because people walked through it and did proper things, but because you and I as human beings understood our proper place in relationship to that world and did our proper work in the proper moment, in the proper way. That's all.
All right, Guy, thank you. Let's go next to Chloe in the queue here. Chloe.
Hello.
Okay.
I'll try to be brief, Guy, because I know that the echo happens. Thank you so much for all the work you're doing to help us.
Hi, Chloe.
Hey, so I'm wondering, I need some guidance on something that I've gotten through the ambition, and I'm learning about that. But I have, they say it's just a metabolic disorder, malnutrition, all of that causes schizophrenia. But I want to understand what is being asked of me when it happens and the voices come. It's so intense, Guy, that I don't know the difference sometimes between me and the intensity of it. All there is bearing it and endurance.
Yeah.
But I get really confused as to what is the best choice. It's too much to really, like all I can do is just wait in that space. But I know, and I'm sorry, I'm crying. I see what you say with the full acceptance. Finally today, I see it fully. The desire is futile. Thank you for teaching on that. I know now that the waiting, I know what that means, and I don't want to waste time putting it into words. Everyone can just listen to you again. So I have the full acceptance understanding, but something in me says,
Yes.
no, this is going to last forever.
Yes.
It's really hard.
Yes, that's
Okay, I'll be quiet.
Yeah, that's exactly what it says, Chloe. This is going to last forever. So, you know, it's arrogance on the part of any human being to believe that they know what it's like to walk in the shoes of another person until, to some extent, they may not have walked in those shoes themselves, but they have made that walk. So I'll paraphrase what you said, and then I will do my level best to try to give you something in every way possible. So here I am, and perhaps, although I would almost say it's not true, perhaps a man or a woman isn't to the point where there's this schizophrenia, this word that describes what happens when a person can't discern the difference between the voices in their head and themselves, which is really just a sort of exacerbation of what happens to all human beings as they learn as they become unable to discern the difference between what is right and wrong, between what is true and what is not. But we're looking at how does that happen? How does that shift take place where I'm afraid that I'm going to fall into that world because it is so compelling? So what I want to say, Chloe, is this. Every person listening, though they may not know it yet, have experience with that, and I'll show you how it goes. I have the best intentions in the world. I'm going to be patient. I'm going to be kind. I've studied enough to recognize where it is that I'm complicit in enabling others. I see how I want to foster dependency in people. I see there's a part of me that's always trying to figure out how to get away from anything that upsets it. I see all these things in myself. And if I'm a true man or a true woman, I have struggled with them as best I can. But there always comes a point, Chloe, where the pain of the conflict in that nature so completely outweighs the consideration of what it would be like not to give myself away, that I give myself away to the pain. I'm carried away by the pain. I'm carried away by the voices. I'm carried away by the fears, by the judgment. I'm carried away because I can only take so much pain, it seems. And then that pain reaches a certain point, those voices reach a certain pitch. And I'm no better than a leaf in the wind. I disappear with all of my good intentions, and I do all of the evil I would not. I converse with those things that I know are conflicted and cursing me even as I'm engaged in that conversation. I've seen it. I know it. But this much I will tell you, Chloe. A human being, by the grace of God, is graced with the infinite capacity to not just meet and realize everything that comes into them, but to do so and do so thoroughly that at some point everything that they meet and comes into them is seen simply as just being that. These are voices passing through my head. They're not my head, they're not my voices. This pain, I can't take this pain, but I've been here. I will see how much further I can go. What can I surrender here? What must I wait through? And then as you wait through that pain, you watch yourself die. Because the you that comes out on the other side when the pain carries the day is the pain nature once again creating and recreating itself at your expense. Bear what you can, Chloe. But what you cannot bear, don't excuse. Bear what you can, but what you cannot bear, don't you ever blame yourself for or judge yourself by. That's what it wants you to do. And that's exactly what we're not going to do if you've understood what I've said. I'm with you, Chloe. On we go, Doug.
All right, Guy, let's go next to Irene in the queue. Uh-oh, Irene, you need to click on your microphone. You hit your hand by mistake. So you can find that. There you are. Okay. Are you speaking, Irene? We don't hear you. Okay, I'm going to mute you right now, and I'll come back to you once more. Guy, there's a couple more questions. I got one here from Mark.
Okay.
And he says, hello, Guy. I too am working on completing the moment as we are given. Then I ask myself, how? And think I must see it and feel I need to do more. Could you please say more?
I guess you're just reading it. Kate didn't post it. At least I didn't see it posted. Yeah, I can answer that, Mark. Isn't it, hold on a second. Yeah, okay, so it shows up on for some reason on the phone, not in the chat box, Kate. So I'm working on completing the moment as we're given. Then I ask myself how, and I think I must see it. I feel the need to do more. Please say more. You see, Mark, the problem begins with the idea that we need to do anything at all. That's why I say the peace that passes understanding is unimaginable. I will talk about this in depth coming up. It's unimaginable. I started the talk today. I said, here's this man, and he realizes I have to find another world. I have to find another life. And then because of the frailties, the faults of an unconscious mind, even the one that is prompted by what is pure and true, all it can imagine is a world where it is satisfied with what it has done. Because that's what we call consolation, contentment, pleasure. I'm satisfied with what I've done. But now you must do the extrapolation if you're capable, Mark, and everybody else. I've been satisfied with what I've done, but then what I've done has been undone. And then I have to do it again. And there's something intrinsic Something understands without taking thought. Well, if I'm satisfied with what I've done and now I live with fear as I do that something's going to undo it, then what have I really done? I'm just someone who, for a moment, is on this side of things saying, this is great, look what I did. And then if the person pursues it at all, he comes across Scripture, east, west. He runs across a person speaking like I'm speaking. Is there a world where I don't have to do something that it's done? Is it done or isn't it done? Now, in this world, in passing time, in our families, in our relationships, in our jobs, in our health, it's not done, in quotes. It requires participation in order to pursue and produce the best outcome possible as one imagines it. But what happens at a certain point if a man or a woman realizes every time I imagine a certain outcome, I become a captive of the fear that what I've imagined won't come out the way I want it to do? So there's one world where it isn't done because this is a world of time and thought. And then there's a world in which that is unfolding where it is all done. Whereas I like to say, life is self-settling. Just like I think Irene was speaking earlier. Chloe too, I fear what may become. Where does that fear come from? It comes from a mind that has created the time that as it looks at it, it says, oh my God, look at that's terrible. And now that nature not only creates time it doesn't want, but now it's going to create more time as it divides itself up into what it has to do to escape the time it doesn't want. Just one time, mark everybody. See what happens when you think to yourself, you know what? I've done everything I know to do. I'm here in this moment. Now this moment isn't enough. Something's wrong. I must do again. And then have the courage of your understanding to at least say to oneself, you know what? I'm not going to do anything more. I will not do anything more here. Spiritually, you got to notice you're being evicted out of your house because you don't have money. Get yourself up and go get a job and make the money you need to take care of yourself and your family. Not what I'm talking about. Saying, I'm not going to think about this anymore. I'm not going to let torment tell me what I have to do and when to do it. Because I've been listening to the will of torment. I've been listening to the will of discontentment. I've been listening to the will of ambition, listening to the will of selfishness my whole life. And I've always taken those voices to be my own. Right, Chloe? They're not my voices. But when I lend them my mouth, and they get into my ear, and then my body is moved by that pain, that fear, or that doubt, I will not let my body, my mind, my ear be bent, let alone moved by anything like that anymore. Just say that, sit there, try that, and then you'll discover something, Mark. You'll get a glimpse into what it is that has always moved you and telling you that there's never enough, that you have to always do more. Christ said, it is not I that doeth the works, it is my Father that doeth the works. What in the name of God do you think he was saying? And do you have the courage to find that out? I'm off, Doug. What's left?
Yes, we're right at the top of the hour. We're going to see if we can get Irene back on. Irene, why don't you log out and come back on? Then we have Todd in the queue and one more question.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
So if you do, Irene, if you would do that, log out and come back on, and then we'll go to Todd right now. Todd, just click on your microphone, and there you go. You're in.
Hello, Guy.
Hello, Todd.
The words touch me deeply. I am suffering from a long chronic illness where I realize that I'm powerless over this.
Yes.
It's done. Nothing more than I can do.
Yes.
Suffering is unbearable. I feel I'm so close. I know who I am. I know what I am. And every time I get close to just completely letting go and accepting death, accepting what's going to happen next, the fear keeps coming in. And I just can't move on. And I know there's nothing to do, but I also believe that the power that I am letting go to, the consciousness, the deep part of me, which is one, has the power to bring back or to remember or to allow well-being again. I'm stuck in this place.
So let me speak to you for a minute. Without going into detail, Todd, I have been and potentially am in your spot. And for what it's worth, my wife tells me it was due to my arrogance as a young man who thought he was immortal, literally. I have a body that's pretty racked up. I don't know a day without pain.
Yes, sir.
Now,
That's me.
the thing is that there is a mistaken part of us that idealizes. It can't help it because it's looking for relief. This notion that if I was with God, or that when I am with God, I won't have this pain. It's not true. The pain belongs to the body. The resistance belongs to the unconscious nature.
Yes.
And the pain of the body and the resistance produced by a mind that doesn't want really the acceleration of the very thing it creates when it pushes away and fights with it. All of that can become grist for the mill, Todd. I know this firsthand. So that it isn't that you become ambivalent to the pain. That's foolish. But that you understand that pain is part of the price of your life. And it's really, in some ways, a beautiful price. Because by the necessity of the pain, it demands at a certain point, and it seems like you're trying to reach it, that you have a new relationship with the pain. That's what awakening is, to tell you the truth, Todd. It's a new relationship with pain, not just psychological, not just physical, not just the pain of the past, but a new relationship with pain where the moment comes along, and as I said in the talk, it gives us this life. It's giving me this life. I'm in this body. I'm being given this body. It's being kept alive. And at a certain point, you might say, why the hell is it being kept alive? It's hell. Because there's still business to do, Todd. There's still business to do. And you're not the maker of that business, but you're the one who can understand what it takes to fulfill the contract.
Yes.
And the clearer that becomes, it isn't that you become strong and wise and brave and painless and all that. That's all, I almost said a bad word. That's all nonsense.
Yes, I know.
But I do become a different kind of man. And the people around me, they know that there's something different because I'm no longer acting out or carrying on with the things that I used to carry on. I've shouldered, oh, forgive me for this, it may be too religious. I've shouldered the cross, Todd. I've shouldered the cross of time and the cross of eternity, the cross of what cannot be avoided, and the cross of understanding that it's not to be feared because God is good. All of those things, they're all there. We have to learn to mind the moment instead of letting the mind tell us what the moment is about. Mind the moment. Get out your pick and your shovel, Todd. We wouldn't be having this conversation if you hadn't done some digging. Dig deeper, man. You hear me?
I don't know how much deeper I can dig, and I don't know how much more I can handle. And
that's the wrong question, Todd. That question belongs to a mind that's already resisting what it imagines is coming.
yes,
No, you don't have that conversation. Get rid of him. Don't ask what's coming. Do and see. Just be willing to do that. Then you will see things you've never seen before. That will make worthwhile everything. Everything is worthwhile. Given something new to see is the same as being made a new seer of the moment. You have a new life. The one with pain in it, yes. But maybe something you see so deeply that then you can take what you're going through and you meet someone or you run into some situation where for your understanding, you're able to help someone else. Like the Good Samaritan.
yes, Guy. I you're talking to me. Yes.
Good.
Yes,
All right.
I feel it deeply.
Yes.
But
No,
the incapacitation, the sheer.
I get it.
It's inhuman. It's an inhuman situation, and
There's nothing that can't be used, Todd, because there's no end to the capacity of a human being to transcend what it is that they think can't be transcended. Again, we're looking not to try to change the pain, not trying to change the conditions, however they may be, not trying to change what created this situation. I want to change my relationship to the revelation of the moment. That's all I'm interested in doing. And in order to change my what's being revealed to me, I must be there in that revelation, not thinking about it, not wishing it wasn't coming, all that, just as present as you can be. Let that pain, like a flag, post you in the ground.
yes.
Then you'll fly a new standard. I know something of which I speak, Todd, and I want you to know it too. Let's talk some more next time, okay?
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
I want to hear what you see. On we go, Doug.
All right, Guy, we will try Irene once again. Irene, are you there? Not going to happen. Let's try again next time. And then, Guy, we'll end with this last question from Chris here. You should have it.
Okay.
Unless you want to save that for next week, because this is the second question from Chris.
No, let's do it.
Okay. Guy, here's what I think I see. On the cross, Christ is at the center, and the two thieves beside him picture the false self and the true self in us. One mocks and resists to the end, and the other humbles itself and turns toward God. In myself, I see the same. The beast in me fights daily against dying, while the true self has nothing to fear and can consent to God's will. That makes me wonder, who was actually sacrificed at Calvary? Was it Christ's true self surrendering, and in that surrender dragging the false self to death? If the false self never volunteers, is it the same for us that our false self is crucified only because the true self consents, not because the false self ever yields?
Rich, everyone, there is only one way and one way only to understand all of the allegories, all of the stories, all of the metaphors that were used to describe not just this living light called Christ, but the life of Jesus that agreed to give up its life so that something new might be coming into this world. There's only one way to know any of this, and it isn't through thinking about it. It's not through reading about it. If you want to understand Christ's life, then by God, make Christ your life. You don't make Christ your life by reading the Bible. You don't make Christ your life by wondering what this was and why that was and who is this guy on that stick and that fellow over there on that cross. You don't make Christ's life your own by trying to figure out what he meant when he said this, that, or the other. You make Christ's life your own by making Christ's life your own. By agreeing. Here's this moment. I don't want it. I don't want to lose this. I don't want to lose you. I don't want to lose my life. I don't want more of this pain. So here is this living light that, by the way, is all of time. And in that light, in what is timeless, that light can see, as did Christ, what's coming, what's there, what's unavoidable, what's required, given what it is that he has come to do. And so here I am, I'm Todd, and a voice is saying, I can't take it, I can't do it. I'm Chloe, and the voices are tormenting me. I'm Mark, and I'm filled with judging myself. And instead of letting my mind be distracted by a thought that will always run to what brought it up to begin with so that it can reach some conclusion, all of that goes out the door. And I'm right there on the hill. And I'm not thinking about what's coming, I'm experiencing what is. I'm going to say it again. I'm not thinking about what's coming. I'm experiencing what is. And what is I'm filled with terror. I'm filled with confusion. I'm filled with anger. I'm filled with anxiety. I'm filled with my importance. And I stay there with that instead of thinking about it so that I can experience the brunt of a nature that has been kept out of sight, out of mind. By the grace of the light that shows it to me, and that in that revelation asks me, will I bear that cross? Will I bear what happens when I don't run from, hide, or otherwise pretend that I'm a special, different kind of person? Because if I do that, then I know what Christ's life was like. I am then Christ's life. And there is no other life than that in Christ. Using those words. That's about it, Doug.
All right, thank you, Guy. Nice to see you again.
I'll see you in a month.
Kate,
I'll see
are
you
you coming in for a second?
I'll see you in a month. I'm coming up.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. Okay, I'm bailing. Bye-bye.